Hey, Retail Media FC. I'm here at CPG Guys headquarters. It's a special suite they book every year. So every conference here in Las Vegas, I'm here with no one else than Peter Bones, the head of customer engagement of Flywheel. Peter, I'm extremely happy and honored to be here. Tell us a little bit what you do about your position in Omnicom and also CPG Guys.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm always eager and excited to talk to other podcasters in the world who are trying to educate through this incredibly powerful medium. So thank you for being part of our collective community. So my name is Peter V.S. Bond. I have two avatars. One is I serve as head of client and industry engagement at Flywheel, which is the e-commerce accelerator division of the large global advertising company Omnicom. So that what I work on is things like a customer advisory board or voice of the customer, and how we appear at events like Shop Talk. My other avatar is 5 years ago, almost to the month, my best friend and I decided to kill time at the beginning of the pandemic, and we created a YouTube channel. And I'm not going to bore you to details completely, but I'll just say that we pivoted to a podcast format. We thought it was better for people to consume content, and we named ourselves after ourselves. We said, well, we're a couple of guys. We identify as guys, and we were talking CPG or consumer packaged goods, and so why not be the CPG guys? And we invited on all of our friends that we'd made in the industry over 20, 30 years. And honestly, it was because there was a massive amount of transformation going on around e-commerce at the beginning of the pandemic, obviously, and we wanted to talk about it. And so we did. We started to collect an audience of people who thought what we were talking about was interesting and educational and entertaining. And well, we're now 5 years into it. We've published 475 episodes, over 1.5 million downloads. And we are so happy that we come to conferences like Shop Talk and so many people recognize us. It's truly an incredible journey, and I will say this, it has been singularly the greatest networking tool that has ever befallen me. So I'm honored whenever other people want to talk to me about what we do, and I'm excited to know that you're in this journey as well, and it's taken root globally, and we're talking about concepts that are particularly important. And retail media is something where the CPG Guys has naturally gravitated because it's such an explosively growing media platform.
Well, amazing. Great to listen to your story and to share this with the Brazilian audience. I hope you start to see more. But I'm sure that you see more Brazilians on your dashboards listening to the show.
What I can tell you is this. As part of my role at Flywheel, I am privy to a tremendous amount of data and insights related to global e-commerce activation. And Latin America is one of the highest growth rate areas for retail media. And there is no bigger market than Brazil. So I am very aware of what is going on there, how brands are using retail media to build loyalty and grow their overall equity. It's exciting to watch it happen. So it's for me, I'm a Canadian by birth, and the most famous Canadian hockey player is a man by the name of Wayne Gretzky. And there's a saying about how Gretzky played hockey. He never went where the puck was. He went where the puck is going. That's what I look at. I look at Brazil and I say, that's where the puck is going. That's where the big stuff is about to happen.
Oh, I'm extremely happy to listen to this, because I think you should come to Brazil, and we have to make our efforts to bring you to Brazil.
You're not going to have to twist my arm, because I have a family member of mine, my first cousin, his wife is from Buenos Aires, and she's always trying to convince me to go down. And this past December, I had the incredible opportunity to go to Santiago, Chile, to speak to a group of suppliers at a major retailer event, and just absolutely fell in love with South America. So I would honor the opportunity to come down and see what's going on there in person. And I will also say this, Omnicom has a very large presence in Brazil. So of course it would make incredible sense for me to combine both opportunities.
Yes, we have Jenna Ina. So she's amazing. She's like a close friend of the Retail Media FC project. Great. So let's make this happen. Let's
Sure.
bring it to Brazil.
Let's make that happen.
I've heard that you told me that you're not a fan of coffee.
I'm not. I grew up in a household where my parents drank it constantly and the smell was always there. And I guess I just reacted to it in the wrong way. And not to say that I don't like caffeine. I certainly do. I just choose to consume caffeine in other forms.
Okay, but what about barbecue, meats?
Yes.
So,
yes,
okay.
and yes, and yes.
Okay, so definitely we will make you busy in Brazil.
I love a good Brazilian steakhouse, and it's an incredible experience. So yes.
Okay. Count on me. You'll have a great experience. I'm a foodie guy, so
my misspent youth was when I was in my late 20s and early 30s. I would spend weekends at Michelin star restaurants in New York City, chopping mise en place so that I could learn cooking techniques. So I did some mise en place at Le Bernardin so that Eric Repair would teach me how to debone a fish. I did it at WD-50, a very no longer in existence, but it was a famous restaurant that was run by a molecular gastronomic chef named Wiley Dufresne, and I wanted to learn molecular gastronomy. So I know how to make mashed potatoes without using yeast cultures, without any milk or dairy products, and it comes out smooth and textury and absolutely beautiful. So those are the kind of things I relish doing. So I am excited to go and do some food exploring with you.
Wow, yeah. I didn't know that you were also a foodie guy, and also
I learned that from my dad. My dad is a gourmand, and he always got me started in that. In fact, when I got married at our wedding, my wife said, my parents told me that if I wanted to find a good man, I needed to know how to cook. And she said, I just found a man who knew how to cook. So that's how she handled that issue. So yeah, I love it. I find it very therapeutically relaxing, and I enjoy doing it. And you know what? It's an opportunity for me to please my friends. And if I can do that, then I've created a happy community where people want to spend time with me.
Yes, you're totally right. I agree 100%.
Yeah. So
let's shift a little bit about the retail media subject.
Yeah.
What are you seeing today in 2025 that's going on? What do you see the landscape like?
Sure.
If you could explain for someone who is out of the market.
Yeah. So we'll talk about retail media in general, and then we'll talk about different regions of the world. In general, retail media is seeing explosive growth. The decline of traditional methods of brand advertising at scale, linear television, print media, both are seeing precipitous drops. Usually when I go into a room of people, I'll ask a typical question. How many of you still get cable television or satellite television? And very few people in the room raise their hand. Most people are now doing streaming services. So right there, linear television's ability to reach audiences is diminishing at a very fast rate. Who gets a Sunday newspaper? Who gets any newspaper anymore? I like to build fires in my house. I try to go to stores to find newspapers that I can use to crumple up and start fires. I can't find any. They're hard to find. So the point is, those are not mechanisms that brands can use to reach large audiences. Retail media presents an incredible opportunity to not only replace those kinds of media outlets, but to do so with so much more than they got before. Because in a closed loop system, that means where you can deliver advertising exposures in a number of different methods, and you can actually measure which of those were effective and which combinations were effective, and actually get a return on investment. That's what's so important. Problem is, there are a lot of retail media networks, and they all have different measurement techniques, and they have different ad units, and the ability to coalesce around what are common ad units and common methods of measurement hasn't happened yet. And because of that, brand advertisers don't really know how to buy media at scale in this platform. So there's a lot of promise. It's just that the industry hasn't completely shifted there yet. Now, retail media is much more developed in the United States. Amazon was the retailer that introduced us to retail media, and they have been consistently innovating. Walmart, another big retailer, primarily brick and mortar in the past, has come back and started entering into retail media in a very big way. And what they present is a unique opportunity in that they also have a very large in-store audience, something that for the most part Amazon doesn't have other than a couple of small retailers like Whole Foods. But they are trying to catch up to Amazon in terms of their innovation. And then you've got just about every other retailer in the United States all seeing, if you look at any of the quarterly returns and results coming from Amazon or from Walmart, I think in Walmart's latest quarter, 1/4 of their profit came from retail media. Any other retailer in the world is going to look at that and say, sign me up for this. Problem is, they don't have the scale that Walmart does. Now, outside of the United States, the adoption of this has been a lot slower. Why? Because, I'll give you an example. In Western Europe, Amazon doesn't have the kind of dominance that traditional brick and mortar retailers have. And a lot of brands don't want to even list their products on Amazon because they've seen that the effect that Amazon has had on bringing prices down. There are a lot of premium pet food companies. They don't want to sell on Amazon in Europe. They sell on Zooplus, which is a pet food retailer, and they do things there. So it depends on the area. Obviously, retail media is very big in Asia because platforms and marketplaces like Alibaba and ByteDance, which is we know here in the US as TikTok, they've started to emerge as mechanisms. The most interesting stat I saw was that TikTok claimed that last year they were able to convert 40% of their users to doing commerce on their platform through TikTok shops. That is astronomically huge. So there is so much going on. Each area of the world has different focuses and are at different maturity stages. But what I do see consistently is growth. So that tells me retail media is where the puck is going. If you're a brand and you don't understand how to use retail media, how to use social commerce, how to think about where your brand is going, you're going to lose.
I saw a keynote yesterday about the growth of retail media, and the forecast was to reduce the growth.
I think the growth rate has come down, but it's still growing.
Yes.
It's not 20% like it was the year before, but it's 15%. I'll still take 15% over decline. I mean, the other issue is that, particularly in the United States, the pandemic had an effect on resource availability. And what I mean by that is a lot of brands didn't have access to the raw materials they needed to make their products. And so the whole supply and demand situation kicked in, and a lot of brands took price, which means they increased price when they never had. And it was a time when most of the retailers weren't pushing back because their choice was, if I push back, I'm not going to have any inventory on my shelves, and I don't like having empty shelves. The problem now is that we're post-pandemic. They took an enormous amount of price over the last 3 years. And what's happened now is the price differential between big national brands and private label has become so large, and consumers are feeling such pressure now with inflation that they are turning away from national brands and they're going to private label. Now, the big brands are not going to take their prices down, but they're facing volume declines. And so what do you do if you've got volume declines? How do you do that? The only area of growth that most consumer packaged goods brands are seeing right now are not in brick and mortar, they're in e-commerce. That's why retail media is such an important. Most people are saying, well, I need to take my money away from retail media and put it into brick and mortar. No, you don't want to take your gas off the pedal in e-commerce. You want to put more pressure on the pedal. You want to have that be your growth driver. So retail media is at an inflection point. If the retail media networks can give the brands what they need, transparent measurement and scale and full funnel capabilities, the world is their oyster. That's what's got to transpire in the next 2 years in the retail media space.
I want to come back to this matter, but you mentioned about private label.
Yeah.
What do you think about retailers create business case with their private labels, like create business case? I don't know exactly the names of their private labels, but in US, but
there are retailers that are squarely focused on their private label. The sister company to Aldi in the United States, Aldi is present here. The sister company is Trader Joe's. Almost the entirety of their assortment is private label. They have focused on that. That's fine. But there are companies like Target which are continually launching new private labels. I mean, within the food category alone, they probably have 4 different private label brands. Each one, some targeting natural shoppers, some targeting indulgent shoppers, some targeting just basic shoppers. All of those are attacking different niches. The problem when it comes to retail media is, what role does private label play in a retail media ecosystem? If the retailer is making decisions on the digital shelf that strategically benefit their private label, and yet they're asking national brands to invest in retail media, a lot of the national brands feel like, you're asking me to pay to counter program against something that you have intentionally done. I'm really not comfortable, in the mafia vernacular, I'm not really comfortable paying protection money for an artificially created situation. So private label is a real issue. Good national brands, because the real truth is this: before the last probably 5 years, okay, the retailers held all of the cards because they held the points of distribution, right? And for 75 years, for the better part, they were the ones writing the checks to buy products, and they held the points of distribution, and the brands didn't have a lot of power. 2 things changed in the digital age. One is the invention of marketplaces. The fundamental aspect of marketplaces that consumers love is assortment. Marketplaces crave assortment. Manufacturers control what they decide to sell through a marketplace, so they can restrict their assortment. The second thing that they have is they're now writing a check. It's not just the retailer writing the check. They're writing a check for their media assets and their platforms. And so I'm not saying that the power is shifted completely from the retailer back to the brand, but they have a lot more power than they had 5 years ago. And brands need to understand how they leverage that. And retailers are craving money from brands, not only for their media assets, but for their data assets. They have these walled gardens, very rich consumer purchasing behavior that these brands don't have access to. They can sell that to them through typically anonymized, aggregated data, online query tools to build audiences and do things. But that's high margin for them too. They crave the margin that they can get from selling both their media and their data assets. That means that manufacturers are writing a check, and they have more leverage, because you know what? Those retailers, as we've seen by the results, get a lot more margin dollars from selling those than they do selling their products on the digital or physical shelf.
I had a conversation about this with Sarah. I saw her speaking at Keynote, and we had a chat. And
from Amarsis, yeah.
Yes, from Amarsis. So we were talking about, we had this movement of the DTC. Yes. So the brands going and they realize their power. Yeah. But then they realize that they don't have so much power. Like, they have a limited power. Yes. And then they still need to rely on retailers. Okay. It was something like...
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. What it's forcing is the two of them to figure out, how do we both get what we want and drive our business with consumers, right? There's still a lot of friction. It's very evident here. It's also evident in markets where, like in South America, a lot of the retail media is in activation in physical store, and it's not very personalized. It's displays and other things, but increasingly, it's obviously there's a tremendous amount of value in on-site owned and operated property, product listing ads and things like that. But brand stores on the digital shelf, it's getting more sophisticated. What it will ultimately take is just 3 things, as I said. Transparent measurement, common ad units, and scale. Because at the end of the day, here's the truth. It takes just as much time to execute a campaign on Amazon, which has enormous scale, as it does to take and build a campaign on a regional retailer with 100 stores in the middle of the United States. So where is a brand going to put their effort. They're going to put it effort where they get more bang for the buck. They're going to do it at scale. So a lot of these little players are going to have to ultimately, I believe, either form an alliance and make a common access point and essentially replicate a national audience, or they're just going to have to make a decision that they're not going to do programmatic advertising. They're not going to do streaming TV. They're going to leave that up to someone else. They're going to make their data available to a coalition and let them sell it. But that's what's going to happen.
I think you're right. And this is the level of association that retailers never thought they would need to make.
No, I think that what happened was they got enamored with the margin that this could promise them. And the problem is that most of the investment that they are seeing, so Amazon and Walmart in the US are getting a lot of investment from brand dollars. But for the other 100 retail media networks that are really only representing about 16% of the spend, it's just coming out of the same trade funds that were being allocated to those retail partners. It's not giving them the incremental spend. It's just shifting from this activation to that activation. And that is what they're up against facing. They're not going to really be able to attract those incremental dollars until they address those other three issues.
Yeah, coming back to the forecast of the growth and talking about the size of the market. Because when we talk about physical stores and online, everywhere, not everywhere, but especially even Brazil and America, the majority of purchases, the shop happens in store.
They do in physical store, in grocery particularly, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's still 90% of the volume.
Yes,
but the one thing is that those shoppers all carry into a store a smartphone, and their ability to use that to, I mean, I think about how much I use that to research whether food products are compliant with whatever health lifestyle I may be following, or whether, is it gluten-free, is it non-GMO, and then I'm also comparing, okay, does it have the, what is the competitive price, and so the in-store experience, I firmly believe this: 100% of all sales now are digitally influenced. I can't say that 100% are driven by an ad that you saw, but 100% of all sales are digitally influenced. So you have to stop thinking about e-commerce versus physical. Yeah, physical stores where they do the redemption and they do the pickup. But I mean, like one stat I saw is that Target here in the US does a curbside service. Something like 35% of the people who come to a Target and do a pickup, then after they've picked up their product, walk into the store and buy something else.
It's the case of Best Buy also.
Same thing, yeah.
Yes, they mentioned 40% of the online sales they.
So what Target did is they realized this, and in the last year they've literally doubled the number of parking spaces for their curbside pickup. Why? Because they tend to be towards the front of the store, and someone comes in, they park in the spot, the delivery person comes out, puts it in their trunk, and then they get out of their car and they walk in the store. And Target's like, if increasing the number of spaces for curbside is what's going to get people to come to my store, and I knowing that 35% of them are then going to go in and buy something in the physical store, I'll build more parking spaces.
And Target, we can understand, because Target is like everyday shop, but Best Buy, we don't go.
Well, that's the thing, is what do you do? And what's the other thing Target's trying to do? They're also trying to figure out, how do we make that curbside transaction more profitable? So what do you do when you say, I'm coming to get my product? They ask you, we have a Starbucks in the store. Would you like a coffee that we can bring out to you when we bring the products that you've ordered? And soon you will start to see, would you like a candy bar with that? And would you like another snack? All of a sudden, you are now introducing into the path to purchase very high margin components that can take that transaction from revenue negative, revenue neutral to profit positive. So there's so much opportunity for brands, and retail media plays a critically important role in that, because it's about building the basket, and it's about advertising, particularly products that can make that transaction more profitable.
I was wondering about the new products that retailers could create and develop to for retail media in store. And just before we start shooting, you mentioned something very interesting. Yeah. So I would like to get.
So the issue about in-store has been brands have been a little spoiled by on-site traditional product search advertising because it's highly personalized. I can personalize the advertisement based upon the search terms that you've entered or based upon your historical purchasing behavior, right? The problem with in-store is most of the activation has been not personalized. It's been relevant. Like I'm going to put an advertisement on a screen about dog food in the pet aisle, but it hasn't been highly personalized. Well, the first companies to start attacking that were marketplaces like Amazon and Instacart, where they started to introduce these smart carts that you could pick up when you go in the store, and they have screens on it, and they do a lot of other fancy and wonderful things. But they could actually start by someone taking the cart and provisioning it with their identification. Maybe it's a QR code from the mobile app for that marketplace. Now I know that it's you pushing that cart. Now I can use your purchasing behavior to send your advertising. The problem with that model is it's highly capital intensive. You have to build these carts. And who's going to fund that? The retailer? Traditionally, they don't like to do that. The better way to do it is what the club store division of Walmart, Sam's Club, is doing, which is they are now starting to deliver personalized ads in their mobile app for club members going in store. They have a unique feature that Walmart created called Scan and Go. And Scan and Go simply means if you walk into a club store, or in Walmart's case, you walk into their store, and you open up your mobile app, you can just, as you're putting items into your basket, scan the QR code. I mean, the barcode on it. And then when you go to the end of the store, you don't have to take those items out of your basket. You just go up to the kiosk, scan the QR code. It immediately tallies everything that it saw you putting in the basket. It charges your credit card on file, and you walk out of the store, right? So as you're doing that and you're putting the items in the basket, Sam's Club is now able to deliver personalized ads in the mobile app. There is no capital investment because you're not building and distributing carts. You are putting software on an app. The capital cost is borne by their members because they've paid for their cell phone, right? The actual device. So that is the most appropriately scalable solution because they don't have to put carts in stores. They just have to update their software app.
And when they scan, they offer, like they deliver ads based on their history, right?
Yep.
And Peter, what your predictions for retail media?
My predictions are basically that as the ad units coalesce, as the measurement opportunities for brands are made more transparent, either common methods of measurement or through clean rooms, the abilities of brands to use third parties to measure their own so that they can plug into different clean rooms. A clean room is just a privacy safe environment that commingles the data and allows them to actually measure performance. Those clean rooms will allow them to execute measurement across different retail media platforms, all with the same measurement approach. And so they can truly compare one to the other and see what works. That as that happens, brand dollars will begin to shift away from other mechanisms and truly put them where they belong, which is in retail media, because the ability to build and target audiences and then measure performance is so much better than the old way of doing things. So that is my single biggest prediction. I also believe that that what will also accelerate the ability to do highly sophisticated retail media is AI. And that's because it will enable the ability to create very refined audiences at scale, build the necessary content and offers that are appropriate for each user, and then execute and measure them on the back end. So I think we are at a golden age for retail media, and I see huge opportunities.
Peter, thank you so much.
My pleasure. It was great, and good luck to you, and congratulations on getting into the podcasting business. It's so good to see other media people being able to develop this platform to educate this industry that we are so passionate about.
Yes, I'm take your words like with very happy and honored, and hope to have you in Brazil very soon.
We'll work on that. Thank you very much.
Not at all.